Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. This is Justin Bradford alongside Jim Chandler and Jeremy K. Stands for knowledge that we know of. Gover. This is our Oscar reaction pod, a quick reaction because so many big things happened. This was a really big episode of the Oscars. A big change from last year's episode of the Oscars,
Yes.
Jim. Got back to, I think, a lot of class, a lot of great surprises, a lot of big wins, a lot of emotional speeches, and a lot of positive things came out of this award show. And we're going to discuss that in this episode of Untitled Film Project Podcast. And Jim, let's just toss to you first, especially because you are the veteran here when it comes to award shows and being a film critic and keeping an eye on all these things that are happening. Your overall just impressions of this year's show.
Totally from the wins aside, I totally agree with you. This is a positive and uplifting Oscars broadcast and not necessarily one where they lift themselves up. I mean, because Hollywood even acknowledges, hey, we love to pat on ourselves on the back. But there were so many beautiful and amazing storylines that either, were leading up to awards and award winners. Ke Huy Quan Come On. I mean, who wasn't inspired by that?
Right.
And there was events that happened like in the moment spontaneously that were incredible. And I'm talking about like even leading up to in the red carpet, Lady Gaga's in a Versace gown. She's fully glammed up. And one of the photographers falls down, actually has an incident in which like they've fallen and can't get up. And she could have just as easily kept walking down the carpet, but she stops, she turns around, makes sure he's okay, gets him, like in a better place, and then moves on. It was like these beautiful human moments that I just loved about the Oscars this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to make sure that I'm hearing this correctly. It's a beautiful human moment if somebody helps up somebody and makes sure they're in a good position and then continues to do their job. Is that what we're saying?
Most of the time, no. But at the Oscars, and if you look at the video, Lady Gaga she was already past.
She easily could have kept going, easily.
Yeah. And, credit to her. I've met her a few times and she's a wonderful human being. And she is the type of person to notice something isn't right, turn around and do something, which we don't usually get from Hollywood.
True.
Usually it's just move on, you're on your own.
It was a genuine reaction because it's chaos too on a red carpet. As also for her to turn around and double trail back. I mean, it just shows how genuine she is. And just to stick in the Lady Gaga topic as well, especially Jim, before we get to go over as well, the performance that we saw. So she's glammed up in dress, full makeup and hair and everything. And then all of a sudden when they're performing the songs that are nominated for Song of the Year, and she is all makeup removed, in a t-shirt and tattered jeans to be raw and emotion-filled for the performance of her song from Top Gun Maverick. That right there shows, one, how committed she is to the performance. Two, to know how different and difficult it would have been for that song to hit as much if she had still been in her full gown and makeup. And three, just how awesome she is, because her vocals, you can just tell when someone can actually sing and you don't have the auto-tune hitting in all the time and everything. Lady Gaga, if you didn't already know, folks, has the chops. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful raw performance, and I loved it so much.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Don't pay any attention to the trolls on the internet because they're picking out weird things. And I thought it was brave to not wear any makeup at all, but it was totally appropriate. And she totally made it about the music, and much respect to her.
So, Gover, for you were doing your homework for a future pod during part of the Oscars. We'll go and throw that out there. He was doing his homework, folks.
He really was.
But you got to see a good section of this as well, too. Did anything surprise you, or with the wins that you were able to see, did it kind of just go along with the flow of what we saw with the MCFCA, with the Music City Film Critics Association, or did something shock you?
I don't want to say anything shocked me, but I will say that Everything Everywhere All at Once winning the big salami, if you will, that was pretty, again, surprising is a strong word, right? It's a tremendous film. It does not surprise me in the least that it won the whole thing. I was just, I don't know what even the correct phrase is, but I was positive that something else would surprise us.
A curveball would be coming.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I thought for sure a curveball would be not like Top Gun Maverick winning. I obviously not that, but I just thought like something would come out of left field and prove everybody wrong. And when I say everybody, I mean like when it wins a Golden Globe and it wins
all the people betting on it.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. Yeah, it would take the odds and be like, oh crap, the third place. The thing that had the third best odds won. That's what I thought was going to happen, is something like that. And so when it actually won, it was a great moment on stage with Harrison Ford, of course, and his old co-star. But just, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I rarely do it, like, since it's the last award show in the pack, it almost seems like Oscar voters in the past have said, well, they've won a ton, so let's just vote for somebody else.
Yes.
And then you get one of the surprise winners. And this one, it didn't.
And to bring sports into this, but even though things had already been decided before the award show, we saw momentum happening with All Quiet on the Western Front. As they're winning awards, and people go, they're winning awards, they keep winning. Is this a sign? Are they going to come in? Is this going to be the surprise to win Film of the Year? And for me, luckily, it didn't, because there were some Twitter reactions going on of, it's a remake. Why is it getting all these nods? It's a remake. It's a remake. Okay, why is it winning all this? But I mean, fair point to some people's reactions to it, because you have more something that is original that you're hoping wins, and not something that is a remake from a 1930 film that people still consider to be better overall. I did not expect All Quiet on the Western Front to win Best Score, and it did. It won some awards. I'm going, wow.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did. And I was, because I was late to the game with All Quiet on the Western Front. It was on Netflix, and I, by the time it got buzz, we had already placed our ballots and done everything we were doing as far as our responsibilities. When I watched that movie, one of the things that stood out to me was the score, and they used exactly what they needed to do in the broadcast, which was, there were 3 notes that were so powerful in that. And I said to my wife while we were watching the broadcast last night, I'm so glad they're using that, because those 3 notes were prominently and perfectly used along with the rest of the soundtrack, that, like, I haven't remembered. Well, see, the only
like Jaws
3 notes, Jaws. Yeah, right. Or the 5 notes of Close Encounters. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, that it was so signature and so well used in that movie that I thought, you know what, I'm really cool with that award.
So once we got through into adaptive screenplay, or sorry, original screenplay, adapted screenplay, Women Talking, great win for that.
Called it.
Screenplay. Yeah, that was great. And I know Gover would appreciate that as well too.
Yeah, I just that was the award I think they should have won. Look, as somebody who is relatively new to this critics game, but is not new to movies at all, these are the kind of movies that you think, man, it's so good and it's so different, and so, like, it's just, but they're not going to win anything. Like, it's going to go to that one monster of the year, and all the awards seem to go to it, except for maybe like visual effects or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with visual effects, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to pick out something that's on the fringe.
Sure, yeah.
Jeremy Gover. His name is Jeremy Gover.
But Women Talking it's such a. I'll stop short of calling it a masterpiece, but I will say powerful. That it's a tremendously powerful film, and it's like, man, it sucks. It's going to get edged out by everything. So this was a perfect category for it to win. I'm thrilled that it did.
And then once we got into original screenplay and Everything Everywhere All at Once, we're like, okay, it's starting. I think it's starting.
But doesn't but it's starting, but doesn't that lend itself to what I said earlier, which is like, oh, here comes the curveball. Like, it's going to set us up
but that was the curve, because
switch.
But that's the thing. I'm back to the early in the conversation of the momentum. All the momentum, even though it wasn't nominated in this, but All Quiet on the Western Front not winning adapted screenplay, which it was up for against Women Talking, and you have original screenplay not going to something like Tar or Banshees of Inisherin, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, when it's like, okay, things are settling in, because All Quiet did not completely sweep because that's what people were starting to look at. Is it going to completely sweep? Is it setting up for something bigger? And then we started to get back to what we were expecting, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then coming down to Austin Butler and Brendan Fraser. And let's go ahead and get into some of these other big awards as well.
Sure.
Which is actor in a leading role. I think in this one, even though Colin Farrell was fantastic in Banshees of Inisherin, I think it really was going to come down to, with the votes, coming down to Austin Butler or Brendan Fraser. Thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I think that certainly, I hate to say that Hollywood will do what Hollywood's going to do, but they did. I think any other year, somebody like Austin Butler might have won, or one of the other, Colin Farrell. But in this case, the Oscars, boy, do they love them somebody playing with a disability. And we can go back to My Left Foot there's a lot. I mean, Precious, this one was obesity, somebody playing an obese man's horrible life. And boy, do they love that.
Okay. I think that they do love it, Jim. I'm not taking away from that. But I cannot help but think it's because Brendan Fraser played this role. What I mean by that, of course, he won the Best Actor. So, of course, it is because he won. But I'm saying, like, if you put... This is a horrible idea, but I'm just throwing it out there. If Dennis Hopper, okay, is playing again, it's left. I know, sorry, I wanted a left field curveball in this podcast, and here we go. If Dennis Hopper plays this role, okay, were he alive and all that? So it's like, oh, he's got acting chops. He's highly regarded. He's this and that. It's like, yeah, it's a great role. But I think because Brendan Fraser was in The Mummy and was in Encino Man and was in all these just Bedazzled and all these just
and he disappeared.
Horrible.
He was
90s comedies.
He was the secondary disappearance person who had a comeback.
Correct. So he comes and plays this role and he does great because he's always been able to act, but because he's attached himself to these horrible projects that have not aged at all. They weren't even good then, but that's neither here nor there. Then I think it's like, holy crap, look at this performance. I just can't help but think that's a lot of it.
And given his recent history as well with another award as well. There's lots of negativity as well. So this is a comeback because of things that he's dealt with on a personal level as well too. So that's why it's a positive awards, because a lot of comeback stories and positive emotions as well, and seeing how some actors are able to rebound in so many different ways as well. So if anything, for me, what I love seeing about Brendan Fraser is you can see just how much the moment meant to him, because while I didn't enjoy The Whale itself as a movie, I enjoyed his performance because of what he had to overcome and what he did in that film.
Which you said on this show.
Yes. Just like Hong Chow. Her performance was incredible. And for him to actually address that as well and say that his role was completed too by Hong Chow being strong in her role, that's awesome. Like, that's awesome for actors like that. And you could tell the sincerity behind that too, because it's such a small cast. So for him to address it like that, I absolutely loved. We got to move on. But before we get there, another comeback story.
Before we move on, let's talk about some movies Brendan Fraser's done, like George of the Jungle. Oh, sorry.
Or Encino Man, as Jimmy Kimmel brought up.
Give me more Mummy, damn it. But only with Rachel Weisz. I want Rachel Weisz in it. Just
see, now he can do some really bad buddy comedy, right?
I want a buddy comedy?
No, listen. He can do a really bad buddy comedy, and it can actually say on the poster, Academy Award-winning Brendan Fraser.
Like, we get the raunchy comedy coming out with Jennifer Lawrence. It's like, Academy Award winner Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, exactly.
Needs to have sex with a 19-year-old to get a new car.
Yes, we can move on. I just wanted to make that joke. Sorry.
But Ki Hai Kwan, who was incredible in Everything Everywhere All at Once. A lot of people still have not seen that, and it's actually being re-released at the theaters. So this is what I love about it, because A24 was a very limited release. It really caught on at the end of the year, and people couldn't watch it. But what I love about the film is that you think about in a multiverse movie like this, which is a true multiverse movie compared to Doctor Strange.
Absolutely.
That you have actors that had to come up and play their character in completely different ways within the same film. And anyone who's done acting, that is extremely difficult, because if you're getting into a role, and especially if you're a method actor, which I don't think any of them were in this film, how you dive into a role to become that character, and you have to do that 3 different times. Jamie Lee Curtis had to do that. Ki-Hai Kwan had to do that. I mean, that's what I loved about it. And for him to address so many different things in his speech and the pride that he expressed, I started tearing up as well, because the emotion that he felt, you could tell this is his comeback, his true comeback. And I love that so much for him, because he earned that award too.
And he was so sincere.
That's what I was going to say, is the joy radiated off the screen. So when I'm watching him accept that award, I'm looking at a little kid, not the one in Indiana Jones. I mean, I'm just talking proverbially. I'm looking at a little kid so happy he got to buy that fire truck at the store.
Yeah.
Right. Just that's what I'm looking at. And so to see, I don't know anything about what he's went through. I don't. I just don't. I mean, I'm just being vulnerable with you. I don't know. Right. I've heard whispers and this and that, but I don't know. All I know is I see authenticity in an industry that preaches no authenticity. Okay. So I'm seeing this guy come on stage at the biggest stage of the industry and just be overjoyed. And I freaking loved it.
Love it.
It
Who
doesn't
didn't
matter.
want to
I
get
did
on
not
his
vote
train?
for him, you guys. I did not
yeah.
vote for him for best actor. I didn't do it. I didn't necessarily have a problem with it, but I was with his performance. But I was like, well, there's a. But for him to, but I still loved the moment that he brought to us. I'm not in the room. I'm at home watching on TV, and I could still feel the joy. And I thought that it transcends.
It became a moment.
It transcends.
Became a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, wanted to make sure we cover as well. Best song. I love that Natu Natu from RRR one, how international of a sensation that was. And we had great songs. I mean, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, fantastic songs, but the international sensation of Natu Natu, love that on the stage that it was. And the choreography being shown off on the screen during the show was awesome as well.
Yeah.
I'm still bitter. I'm still bitter that Weird Al didn't get nominated, by the way.
Okay, calm down. Okay. Now, some controversy, because it's brought out trolls and everything too, is Best Supporting Actress. Obviously, I think lots of folks, including myself, want to see Angela Bassett win. But Jamie Lee Curtis comes in with her performance as well, wins, which great performances by both. But we're seeing some drama. If there's any category, I think that came with some drama, it's because neither of them had won. And so you have first times for both.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was incredible. Jamie Lee Curtis is the best hype woman out there as well. The support she's showing to other actors, not even, on her film, everything everywhere all at once. But your thoughts on this, any of this controversy as well? I loved Angela Bassett's performance as well, Jim.
I think there was a bunch of things, awards during the night that could have, were very much parallel to this one, which was you had somebody that is really respected and beloved for their body of work who didn't win, and they were beaten out by somebody who maybe, and I picked Jamie Lee Curtis, but maybe just had a better movie this year. And people are mad at that built up resentment that Angela Bassett doesn't have one because of so many of the great things she's done. And she did a great job in any other year. Without that other performer, they would have won. That's what I think.
I have a hard time with this one, you guys, because I didn't vote for Jamie Lee Curtis either. I did vote for Angela Bassett. Well, we all knew I voted for Tusu Bedu. We all know that. But in the actual final ballot, which basically Bedu was not on, I went with Angela Bassett because I think that the situation of the film and her masterful performance warranted Best Supporting Actress accolades. Jamie Lee Curtis, I'm not taking anything away from her at all. I think she's tremendous. And I thought she did a great job in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But to me, it's almost like she wasn't on screen enough. I didn't think that was my tiebreaker. I guess I'll put it that way. My tiebreaker was Angela Bassett was a focal point, a true focal point, and a masterful performance in a movie. And Jamie Lee Curtis was more of a, side character in a great movie. I mean, so I think the tiebreaker went to that character.
That is supporting. Oh God, I said we're not going to fight. So I've seen TikToks out there before the awards describing winners of the supporting, whether male or female, supporting awards and screen time, because there have been winners in this category that have had less than 10 minutes overall of screen time in a film.
Which is bull.
Well, it's because they made such an impact in that amount of time that they took on the screen.
Look,
and
dude, there's exceptions to every rule. I'm saying that
it's not an exception. It's supporting aren't. If they're a lead, that's different. Because you have some films where you have multiple leads. Supporting, I see as a side character of how did they enhance the film by supporting with their role. That's how I try to interpret it. Jim, I don't know if you want, I'm not trying to ask you to be a tiebreaker, but how do you interpret this award?
I will say in Jamie Lee Curtis's defense, and for anybody in that movie, and you might say, oh, well, they had an extra, a bit of help. Jamie Lee Curtis, just like so many of the others in that film, had to play multiple characters that were completely different from each other. So while everybody wants to focus on the few minutes they spend at the IRS desk with the family, you've also got all these different universe, from hot dog hands to her being an absolute monster chasing her through the building like Die Hard. It was there was a lot that she did. So I don't think it was unwarranted.
All right, fair. Okay, best actress in a leading role. The way I was seeing this was it was Michelle Yeoh's to lose, even though there's Cate Blanchett there. Ana de Armas was not going to win. Michelle Williams was not going to win, and Andrea Riseborough was not going to win. This was Michelle Yeoh's, and I think Cate Blanchett would have been the curveball, if anything. Right?
Yeah, I think Kate would have won had Michelle Yeoh had not made this movie this year.
Right. Totally. I agree.
It was if you haven't seen Tar, it's Cate Blanchett, great actress in the role of a lifetime.
And what
I've
I'll say,
also said on this show.
Yep.
Yes. And what I'll say this, I loved Ana de Armas's reaction, because she, as soon as the started rolling, she was like, yeah, right.
Oh, she
knew. Yep. She was into it. People were
because
into
she
it
embraced
Michelle
reality before the show, I'm sure. She already accepted. Look, I'm just thrilled to even be mentioned. Like, it's the cliche, right?
In a really bad movie, too.
Yeah, I'm just honored to be with this company of people. But it was true. She accepted that is a fact. She shouldn't even be there, and she's there. That should be enough.
She knew objectively who the winner should be.
Oh, yes.
And wasn't full of herself. It's great.
It's a lot easier to be thrilled for somebody when you already know that they deserve to do it. Right?
Absolutely. So Michelle Yeoh, just love her story, her background, the stunt work she's done, the different types of roles she's played, and her inspiring speech. And I'm sure you've all seen it on social media. To be the first Asian woman to win this award is huge. And for her to make sure to address that as well, seeing Ki Hai Kwan, seeing Michelle Yeoh as someone who is part of the AIPI community, to see that happen and to be alive to witness this that's one of the reasons why I love the movie so much, to see these strong roles being played, and to know, looking a few years back, what got Ki Hai Kwan really into acting again, and the interest of it was Crazy Rich Asians, and seeing how Asians can play lead roles and not side characters.
Right.
All this meant so much to see how inclusion is happening in Hollywood, and how it's just naturally changing too. It's not being forced. It's naturally
positively.
Yes. Positively, we're seeing so many different things, like The Woman King, seeing a role like that, to have strong Black women in power, whether it's historically accurate or not. I know that's been a huge qualm with that film, but to see them pull that movie off like they did, we're seeing things naturally progress in film, and that's what I love, where it's not being forced, it's natural, because audiences are reacting to it, audiences wanting to see it, audiences want to see these things happen, and they're showing it with their dollars too.
And to be presented, the award was presented to her by Halle Berry.
Absolutely.
Which was awesome too. And I thought
of the only two women of color to win that award.
I thought that was a giveaway, by the way. That's just my that's my
just like, okay, that great segue over into best film.
Yeah.
Because Harrison Ford,
I know, right.
It's like, All Quiet on the Western Front had some momentum going. But Harrison Ford, who has this, connection to someone in a film that is nominated for it,
and likely to win.
And when Everything Everywhere All at Once, I am not in sports anymore. I can be a fanboy of films. The pump that I did when they announced that, even though I thought it was going to, but the fist pump and the hell yeah that I let out in my basement while watching, it meant so much to see these moments, because if you haven't seen the tweet yet, where it's the comparison between Short Round and Indiana Jones, and then Ke Quan and Harrison Ford exchanging hugs side by side, like, beautiful moment. And the producer of the Oscars missed it. The live production missed that moment.
Happens all the time, dude.
All the time.
In sports, you know what, you're waiting the Stanley Cup handshake line, and you're looking for the Hall of Fame goaltender to shake the hand of the new rookie goaltender who just won the cup. And
how do you miss it?
And it's focused on some fan picking his nose in row 3. It happens all the time.
Yeah. You know what the director does? The director goes, okay, well, I know Ke Kwan's going to give an emotional speech that we're all going to love. And then when he did that and he fulfilled that, and like all our seemingly needs were met, they stopped focusing, and then they missed this beautiful, reunion of Harrison Ford and Ke Quan after 40 years.
And what a smile on Harrison.
But the AP got it. The Associated Press got it. So that's what the picture we're seeing all over the place.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And yeah, that was one of those, just we can't get to all the really, I think, human stories beyond the performances, because this was one of those Oscars that was so much better than many others. Except, and this is my final thought, I loved that they acknowledged how way too long of a broadcast it is. But if they cut out every reference and joke about how long it was, it probably would have been 40 minutes shorter.
Now, to his credit, and while I still prefer a different host compared to Jimmy Kimmel, I at least like how he addressed, while we're resetting the stage for the next performance, it's like sometimes for a musical performance to happen, they have to actually have filler to reset, which I'm going, thank you for at least mentioning it, because people are like, why is he talking? They could have cut out the talking. Well, then it would have been dead air or something else. I still wish they would fill it in a different way, but I understand, so at least they did that. Also, remember before with the Oscars, they caught heat for not broadcasting all the awards and not giving the people their moments. So now, as somebody in this industry, I would want to see all that, because people that are part of design, are in the backside of things, they do deserve their time and their moment to be recognized as well. Gover, final thoughts to you now, sir.
My final thought is a question to you guys, and we can talk about it on another show or whatever, but I just throw it out there as a big matzo ball. Do you guys have a problem? I know when I was growing up, let me back up. When I was growing up, I remember it was like best actor, George Clooney, whatever. And then they would show a 10 to 15 second clip, not a montage, a clip from the movie of his performance. Okay. Or they best special effects, Star Wars, and they would show a 10, 15 second clip of the film. Now it's like, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, women talking, Tar, The Fablemans. It's rapid fire. It's like, I understand that as if you're watching this, you don't need to see, right? You probably don't need to see like this 10-second clip, which seems like an eternity, I'm sure. But for the sake of time, they make it like a millisecond. And it's like, wait a minute, we're not. So my question to you and to you, the listener, is, do you care? Do you want them to show more substance, or are we fine with just rattling off lists?
Well, we did get substance in film, because what they did is they spread it out over the course. And I think award shows have been doing that now with the big category, right? Music shows have been doing that as well for like album of the year, things like that, or artist.
That's a marketing trick, though.
Well, yeah, because to keep you watching,
right?
Yeah. But they're showing like 15 seconds from the film in that. They're showing little clips.
It's just anticlimactic because there's no, I don't know, whatever. That's just my own soapbox.
Well, because everybody's watching to see who's going to win that more than anything else too. So I like the production this year. I did like the production overall. I thought, obviously, it's long, but it was better. It was better, and what I still think we're missing. These aren't my final thoughts yet. We're still missing that classy host that understands humor, the Billy Crystal. And those kind of guys don't come along. Those kind of people don't come along all over the place. They're a treat and a treasure of someone that can understand class and elegance while also understand and have good comedic timing. When they keep trying to shove just comedians, I don't necessarily appreciate as much, because I don't think the understanding of the value of the class behind the award show is there. That's just my personal preference. Maybe it's just because of nostalgia sake for me, but I still would love to have that kind of host that oozes class with great sarcasm and great humor as well, to deliver jokes that are written for them as well.
Interesting. To your point, Jeremy, yes, there's a way they made a choice. Instead of showing that clip of the winning actor they show the montage of all the people in that category, and they gave us about 4 seconds of each one, and it did feel rushed. And not that my business is to market movies and help them sell tickets or DVDs or, the digital copy. But if, you have somebody, winning an award, one of the big ones, and somebody is not watching the whole broadcast, they're just going to see maybe the clip. So
That's fair.
Give them a clip of the movie with a clip of them winning, and I think you're golden.
I think it's a fair balance right there.
I'm on board.
Jim, I know you already gave you what you said are your final thoughts, but did anything inspire you to give another final thought?
No, I think I got everything out. I was really pleased. I don't need the Oscars to validate me. We made our picks almost 4 months ago,
really.
and some of the films weren't available to us even at that time. But I was glad that they acknowledged what I acknowledged. I thought, okay, here's a bunch of people that are in the industry. So I am patting myself, yes, on the back for picking most of the same winners. I mean, my, hit to miss ratio was pretty good, but it made me feel good because I believed in those movies, and I'm glad they got the big award.
All right, this is Justin, and my final thoughts are, the first thing that stood out to me was seeing great representation, and not just talking about culture, things like that, but A24. I mean, we're seeing different studios be represented in winning awards, and it just shows how much more equality we're getting in terms of production from around the world. And I love seeing that too, that it's not just about American-made productions and making good film, that great film can be made anywhere in the world. And I'm glad the Academy's recognizing that. I'm glad more just moviegoers are appreciating that as well. And streaming services have helped with that. You saw how many times people mentioned the support from Netflix, but it originally wasn't on Netflix. It's just Netflix picked up the streaming rights to it, and that's made it accessible. And so we're seeing more types of film accessible nowadays. And I like that we're seeing that so much more too. And I hope it continues in that trend, that we see more people inspired by seeing those who won, seeing the types of movies that won, be inspired to continue to make good, unique types of films, to where we're not stuck in what we see all the time, which is a sequel or a remake or things like that. More original types of movies to be made. And hopefully this inspires that by seeing a studio like A24 win big as well. That's going to encourage people and encourage actors as well. I want talented actors to be taken on some of these roles as well that aren't from a big studio. I mean, The Whale and Everything Everywhere All at Once, both from A24, winning big is huge for this industry, to show a shifting of the tide. And that means so much to me, just as a creator, as an artist, as someone that appreciates film so much, to see that happening as well. On the other end, while I loved the Little Mermaid trailer, I rolled my eyes that Disney legitimately, because they own ABC, paid for a segment of the Oscars to have them introduce a trailer. And then Warner Brothers had their little segment of going, well, if we get this from every studio, that's going to be fine. But we didn't. That made it drag on as well.
I have never seen a studio infomercial on the Oscars. And I looked at, the people around me in the room, and I'm like, Warner Brothers just bought product placement, and it's a sore thumb.
Disney would have even made more sense if they're celebrating the 100 years like Warner Brothers did. Then you're like, okay, well, these are, landmark events for these studios, because Disney's celebrating its 100th instead of the trailer as well, because then it would have been, okay, well, both these studios, it's big, it's their century mark, fine. The other part that stood out to me were the performances. I really love Naatu, Lady Gaga, Rihanna. Those are three incredible performances as well. The speeches were fantastic. What caught me off guard, and it always happens too, is when some of these smaller awards where they cut off someone that's getting ready to speak, but they'll let other winners speak a little bit longer. It's like, if you're going to be equal, give equal time, period. Just lay it out flat. And that's never going to happen. I already know. It's just one thing that I'd like to see. But overall, it was great to be as invested as I was in this because of now the role with this podcast and with the Music City Film Critics Association. And like Jim said, to be confirmed in a lot of things that we saw as film critics throughout the year, and being able to appreciate a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once, to appreciate, like Brendan Fraser, to appreciate a lot of these films, and also see other ones out there that I know we need to go watch because they weren't available to us. And I'm like, hey, get on this. You're making things available. Now make more available to us because I want to see some of these fantastic, incredible things that the Academy saw. Those are my final thoughts as well, guys. Anything else before we have to head out?
Yeah, I just want to just touch on the hit or miss ratio. Jimmy put it perfectly. He did really well on his. I actually did really well on mine, except for Best Original Song, in which I got completely shut out. All three of my nominees were not even nominated. So other than original song,
bro.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about life right now. I feel very validated by the Oscars.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Well, folks, we want to know
all
what you
three.
thought.
Come on, all three.
Gover sucks. Well, folks, we want to know what you thought of the show, of the awards. Any surprises to you? Did you think somebody should have won that didn't, or some film should have won that didn't? And also start keeping track of this year, because it's going to be fun next year to go around, and I'm really even more invested in this as well too. Interact with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. We'll have more episodes coming out. We want to know what your reaction was to this as well. Jeremy, anything else? Say no.
All three.
Jeremy, what is your Twitter handle so that people can hear the three movies that you completely got shut out
and complain to him
for their songs?
You can follow me on Twitter at It's Govertime. ITSGOVERTIME. Ask me what movies I voted for Best Original Song, and I will happily tell
you. Okay.
And you have Jim Chandler,
did not back me up at
the resident veteran as well. This is Justin Bradford for Jeremy and Jim. Thank you so much for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. We'll talk to you
soon. Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett. The Untitled Film Project Podcast is presented in cooperation with iHeartRadio.